All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Welcome to this webinar. We have a lot of content to go through, so we'll get started. Just some housekeeping first. We'll share a recording of this webinar in the next few days, and we will also have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And so in Zoom, you will find both a chat and a Q&A widget. Please don't hesitate to put your questions, and we'll try to get to it at the end. So today we're going to be talking about the convergence of IT and OT and risk that it poses, and the how we can minimize this risk to build a business resilience in the manufacturing industrial sectors. My name is Francis Pilon, and I am the sales director at StreamScan. And our panelists today will be Karim Ghanamé, who's the chief of cybersecurity at StreamScan, as well as Roger Ouellet, who is the cybersecurity director at NoviPro and Blair. So, Roger, if you would like to make a quick intro, that'd be wonderful.
Yes, hi. Thank you very much, Francis. So just to give you an idea, NoviPro and Blair is a sister company of NoviPro, so it's a common thing. So NoviPro was created in 1993. Started with the mainframe, so we were mainly in a large enterprise. And with years, well, naturally, like every business, we grew and changed. And today, NoviPro and Blair, we both resell infrastructures, integrate infrastructures. So anything that goes into the data center, software and hardware, and how to access it. So telecommunication security. So NaviPro in there will be we say a VAR, value added reseller for this, and we do architectures around it. We also both have MSP. So the MSP division is on we will manage on-premise customers' environment, or we will host the environment, either for Intel, Powers, AS400. So this is the MSP division. And we also have an ERP for the industrial and manufacturing company. So this is why Pro is here today, because we have a presence in the manufacturing because of our ERP, where we will sell and customize the ERP for those type of businesses. We also have a division that's for looking at human resources. So if you need added staff, we can help that. And it was announced early this year that NaviPro is now NaviPro and Blair is part of the Nova network. This makes us one of the top 10 IT service provider in Canada, which is a great news. We have 1,000 plus customers together, 450 more and more employees, 100 plus certification. We've got 7 locations and 70 partners, 70 plus partners. And StreamScan is one of our top partners. So, Karen, if you could just give us a hint.
Thank you, Roger. StreamScan is a cybersecurity company based in Montreal. We focus on cybersecurity for manufacturing companies, aerospace, defense, and critical infrastructure. We help them to enforce the security, protecting operational technology devices and network, and also we do cybersecurity monitoring 24/7. We have a SOC based in Montreal to help our company to identify attack and take action on them. We also act as an incident response company. We help if company who got hacked, ransomware attack, intrusion. We help them to identify how the bad guy get on the network and to fix the network and come back to the position as soon as possible. We are also involved on a securing company in the area of aerospace and defense to comply to certification, U.S. Department of War certification, which is CMMC, and the Canadian one. And I'm happy to be with you today to talk about cybersecurity for operational technologies.
Well, thank you both. So a lot of depth of experience and expertise when it comes down to IT and OT and convergence. So looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this. So what today we'll cover is a few things. So better understanding the risks around IT and OT convergence. We'll do a bit of a history, how we got here today, to understand the challenges. We'll be talking about the blind spots and ways that we can improve those blind spots or reduce the potential impact that a incident could have on business and improve the resilience of such business. And we'll finally talk about incident response and how we can best be prepared to respond to those, because as we know, it's not if we're going to get hacked, it's when we're going to get hacked, and we better be ready for it. And so, Raji, I'll pass it over to you, the mic, for the giving us a little bit of context here.
Yeah. So again, thank you, Francis. We thought it would be interesting to give you a little bit of history, where this whole thing started and where we're going. So initially, Industry 1.0, it was a mechanization where actually if you want to look at an image, is the steam train. Steam was the power, the horsepower for machines, for the train. And when they started building plants, a manufacturing plant, well, steam was the power for the machines. So this is how it started in the 1800 century. After that, Industry 2.0, electricity came in and mass production. So that was the 1900 and beginning of the second. I don't know how to say that one in English. Anyway, so it then started the 2.0, and that was electricity made it possible to make engine and make production, mass production. And one of the founder, or not the founder, but that made it very popular, was Henry Ford. Fabrication of the Ford cars was one of the first one that was made on the mass production. So that was Industry 2.0. Then came the Industry 3.0, where we're talking about automation, we're talking about computers, so that this is we're talking about CLC, CNC, PLC, SCADA. So all of these things starting to come in, and we're talking about 1970, 75 in these years. So you can understand that when that was built, that was in his own bubble. It was all isolated from the rest of the world. So security, meh, not important. It was isolated. Nobody was going to touch that, and it was, in his own world. So, but then what? What do we want after that? So, because we got something that's running, it's doing its job, but then what do you want to do? You want to go further in the process. You want to get your process optimized. You want to optimize your power. You want to be able to look at the maintenance. You want to be able to plan those maintenance and detect something that will fail before it fails. So that's optimizing all the process and optimizing, your cost, making more revenue. So that was okay. That's the next step. That's what we want to do. How do you accomplish that? That's Industry 4.0. 4.0 brought in the AI, brought in the intelligent plant, the IoT or the IIoT, industrial Internet of Things. So that brings the possibility of connecting ERP, connecting different systems to give you real-time visibility on your process and how it's running. Next step is for 5.0. Because up till now, everything was machine-based. Once you started having machines, before it was human, then it was machine, and it was, hey, my machine is running, don't care about the rest. 5.0 brings back the human factor, brings the green part. So being care of the environment, taking care of the environment, not just doing pollution. So it brings back that human factor in the process. So it's all nice and all this, but you got your operation that has their own operation system, their own data. You got the IT, the business priorities, their system and their data, both as IT, OT, it's both environment, but now they have to work together. That brings governance, strategy, security, architecture, and component that you have to put in place to make sure that whatever you want to do, it's common to both of them because you need to work together to make this happen. It brings challenges. It brings challenges because the value chain component is vast. You've got data source where you got your machine, you got your PLC, you got your sensors, you got your ERP files, and name it. You've got a lots of data source, and then you got to capture the data with your machine, the different type of protocol. So we need to capture this, the real time, the value, whatever information you need, store them somewhere. So on-premise, cloud, hybrids, SQL database, name it. Then you have to visualize, process, analyze, and what's the outcome of it. So there's a lot of components, different items that needs to work together to make sure that you're able to deliver what you want to deliver to the business. That's good challenges. So what's the barrier for that? You got two teams, like you've seen before the diagram. You got the IT and the OT. They have their own system, they have their own data, and they have both their own objective to work. And now you have to converge that. So both team has objective. They're different, and they're valid for both of them. So, and their vision on the risk is completely different. The IT guys and the security guys, their view on risk is much different than the guy that wants to have that machine running all the time and deliver all the time. His risk is that machine goes down. It's completely different. And we'll learn later that the reaction to it is completely different. Security is seen as a disruptive by operation. It's actually disruptive for IT also, for the user also. That's why when we talk about security, usually you bring the process of shift left. So we have a new project coming in, bring the security at the beginning. The whole process of building that project, security is involved. So when it's time to go live, well, it's not a showstopper. You thought about it all along. When machine was implemented in OT, there was no security. It didn't exist. So you cannot bring security at that level. Now you want to take that machine and make it part or communicate with the IT or any other environment. So the project is not the machine. The project is giving visibility. So bring security at the beginning of that project. This way, when you go, you have your visibility. You thought about security all along, and it's not going to be a showstopper. If you're bringing it after, yeah, you're not going to be happy. So that's why operations sees security as are resistant because they didn't bring it at the beginning of the project. Bring it at the beginning of the project, and you will not have to resist. You'll be part of it all along. So it's building trust. So the reality of convergence is it's already existing. You've got remote access for vendors. Your Schneider guys connect remotely on your system because the operation gave them access to it. Not the IT guys. It's the operation that gave them access. And they're often you'll still have the ERP today communicating with the system, the OT environment, just the inventory. So there is element that's existing already or triggers for the environment, but you need to make sure that you're not putting the environment at risk. That's the important part. So, like I said, there's the chain of component to make this thing works is vast. There's elements, but there's human resource also. So you need to make that in your thought process when you're building that convergence.
Yeah, when it is come about IT security versus operational technology security, what we have to keep in mind is that managing these two kind of environment are different. For IT part, you can find vulnerability, and the right thing to do is to patch them immediately or in 24 hours because we think that it is a critical vulnerability. The same kind of vulnerability, if you find them on the IT or the operational technology part, it could be very difficult to patch them because it can be an impact on system availability. This is the reason why applying IT security without taking into account the operational technology context can lead to no operational risk. People don't want that. You find some vulnerability on operational technology, you want to fix them, the operational guy will say, wait, it is not a good idea to do that. But if you don't do that, what will happen is that you will increase your attack surface. New vulnerability coming, new exposition, and one day you will be got hacked. This is the reason why the cybersecurity team, the IT guy, and OT guys must sit together to discuss about risk, which can impact the operations, and see how they can work together to come with an approach, a method we can help to secure the IT part and also to secure the OT part. Because if one of them, the two part, is not secure, unfortunately, some bad guy can gain access to the network and he can, at the end of the day, impact the whole company.
If you think about it, it's not the OT guys that are resistant for the patching. You got environment with XP, not because they want XP, it's because you can't change it. You can't do nothing with it because nothing else is supported for that machine.
Yeah, thank you, Roger, for adding that. Clearly, working with operational technology, reality is very different from IT guys. And of course, if you have to deal with a legacy system with Windows XP, and sometimes you cannot have antivirus for that, it can be very difficult to manage.
Yeah.
And as when we take the cybersecurity and cyber attack landscape, the common vectors that we are seeing on the market to gain access to the industrial system of a manufacturing company is, first one is phishing attack. We are seeing that in a lot of manufacturing company, the company don't do awareness training periodically. Sometimes it is they do that one time per year or two times, or maybe they did it last year, but it is not in the day-to-day um, usage to do some user awareness training. Of course, the user they don't know what are the cyber risks that can target the company, and one day someone will receive an email with a link or a PDF or a Word document. He click on that, malicious code will run on his device. It can scan the anti-network and propagate itself to the operational technology again. This is a big challenge that we are seeing, and it is the time for company to consider that cyber attack will continue to increase, and it is very important for them to do awareness training, maybe at least one time per year or two times or quarterly. But people have to take action to make sure that company employees know how to identify cyber risks and how to handle them. Yeah, go ahead, Roger.
Sorry, I find it interesting that it's actually the same thing as IT.
Yeah.
Security awareness training, the phishing is the main tool used to go after IT or the regular environment.
Yes.
Same thing. So security awareness training, common for both sides.
Absolutely. And after phishing, we are talking about a VPN, remote access. There are the manufacturing company, they deploy VPN access without MFA. And sometimes we are seeing RDP, terminal server, which is exposed on internet. bad guys can use some open source tool for intelligence using they can identify the vulnerability on that, or they can use a vulnerability scanning software which will run 24/7 by botnets. They identify that this company has a VPN access. They will use tool like brute force attack tool to run attack on that, and unfortunately they can find the password on your network. When they gain access using VPN, because you don't have an MFA, will connect on the network. They will try after that to find the devices on the network. It can take 1 month, 2 months, or more. They identify your critical system, including OT devices, and after that they can just run some malicious software on your network before taking the data. This is something that we are saying. But when bad guys get on the network, one issue that we are seeing is that the network are flat. Company don't do some network segmentation. This is something that can help the bad guy to propagate his attack on your network. In the best practice, you set your network, you subdivide your network on some zone. It can be VLAN on or some segmentation, and shows that the operational technology part there is a segmented network, and the IT part you create another segment and ensure that all traffic cannot flow from IT to OT and the other way without some applying some role. Ensure that everything is okay, and this will help the company to enforce the security of operational technology. And in terms of impact, when there is an attack targeting the IT part, it can be like the domain controller is encrypted and some server is encrypted. We can reboot them and come back to production very fast. But for operational technology, the impact of downtime can be very high. It can be like the loss can be very, very high. This is the reason why we cannot just decide that we have to shut down the operational technology, also to disconnect it from the network, because the impact is very high. You have to take that into account when securing the network or when handling some incident. And of course, some attack targeting the operational technology can lead to some safety risk. For example, in mining, if ventilation is impacted by some attack, this can this can be very bad for people who are working over mining. And for sure, for on the food domain, sometimes cyber attack can maybe stop ventilation or some electricity or something like that, and they can lead to some contamination on the food or something like that. But what we have to understand here is that risk in IT part are more easy to be handled versus risk which can target the operational technologies.
Yeah, it can be life-threatening, definitely.
Yeah. And we sometimes the guys on IT, we don't take the time to better understand what in our company or our network can interest the bad guys. Today, the bad guys, the only thing that they want is money. They target the industrial or manufacturing company because they know that the impact of availability, if there is a downtime, the impact is very high. And we also know that on the manufacturing companies, there are some legacy systems which are not well secure. They know that. They know that you use when the company deploy some OT devices, they keep the default username and password that bad guys can find on the internet. They know that people use some VPN access without a good security. And they know that when they target the industrial or the manufacturing company, the likelihood of gaining access to the network is very high compared to the other. And for sure, the goal is to ask you to pay ransom if there is an impact and your system is down. They know that the people from the manufacturing company will be willing to negotiate and to pay the ransom. And when you take also the statistic about the company who pay the ransom, manufacturing company are the one who are the most willing to pay. And bad guys, they know that, and they say, okay, if I want to decide who I have to target, for sure it is a good idea to target manufacturing company.
Yeah, when you get on the network on the OT side, they have, like initially I was mentioning the IIoT. So you got those sensors. Those sensors or this little device they put on the network. They buy the manufacturing company that builds those things buy boards on Alibaba, 5 cents a pop, and you have no clue the what's running on that on those processors or those. No, it's amazing. And those devices also run, if you listen to the network, you'll see Claytex admin user password.
Yeah,
You see you see on the network the firmware. So you have the device, the firmware, and the on internet you'll find any information how to crack it. So it's really not secure.
for sure. In terms of convergence, IT, OT, the challenge or the things that people have to focus on are visibility. Because if you don't have full visibility on the device, IT and OT device on a network, one day one of them will be targeted by an attack and it will lead to an attack. You have to identify all the devices, having an asset inventory about IT and OT device, ensure that you can be able to protect them, doing some network segmentation, as soon as that everything, remote access is done, everything is okay. And this will help you to ensure that when there is an attack, you will be able to detect it early and to take the right action to avoid the propagation on your network. Prevention here is the key. You have to focus on how I can do to detect attack early, to block it, and to avoid the IT or the OT part of the network to be compromised. And for sure, when you detect an attack targeting your OT, you cannot take a aggressive blocking method, because you can do that for IT, but for OT, if you block a device, unfortunately, this can lead to a dissolution of a network, and it can be a big impact for the company. This is most of the time not acceptable. This is the reason why when you identify some vulnerability or some attack against the OT part, you have to ask yourself what you can do to as a compensatory measures that you can put in place to protect the device without just doing some aggressive or blocking on it. And for sure, in terms of cyber attack, people from OT and IT have to sit together to come with a coordinated method of responding to incident, because sometimes the incident will start by IT and after that it can propagate itself to the OT. People have to sit together to understand how we can work together, identify the role and responsibility, and when the operational technology guy must be involved, and who have to decide if we can disconnect the OT device or not. This must be clear before you start handling incidents.
Definitely. Yeah, before I mentioned that the security awareness training for ITOT, same concept, same thing. Uh, Initially, Karen, when you presented StreamScan, you were talking about the framework CMMC and the NIST. There's the IEC 62443 also that exists, and the Purdue model for the segregation. When you look at the 62443, the objective is authorization, availability, confidentiality, accessibility, integrity, authentication. When you look at the diagram in the middle of the screen, when you start learning about the cybersecurity in the IT side, the basic part is I don't know in English what is. It's I think it's the same thing, CIA. So confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Those three pretty much exist on the 62443. Again, it brings a common perspective on some of the block. It is different. The reaction, the way that you're going to handle stuff is different. But the integrity of the data system, the availability of the system, the confidentiality exist on both sides. There's more elements that you add on the 62443. But again, it's just to think about there's a common items between both of those systems. And Karen, you mentioned visibility. Yep, visibility is the foundation for IT, for OT. You need to be able to see the asset, need to see the flow. And one thing that's important, the tools that you're going to be using on the IT side understands IP, TCP. When you go on the industrial side, you might have some different protocol. You will see more protocols, but for that you need the tools that's able to understand those protocols. Because if you don't have the proper tools, you'll have limited visibility, which is basically no visibility. So having those tools, being able to identify who's connected to your network, understand the real flow, the flow of data and dependency. Your OT side, your PLC, your SCADA, does it depend on something on the IT side? Is there a database on that side that needs to be accessed to make it work? Does it need access to the internet? Understanding the flow and the dependency will be able to make a understanding of the normal behavior, how things are supposed to be. So if you know how things are supposed to be, well, something that's abnormal, you're able to detect it. Then you're able to do something about it. You'll be able to react, prepare, and do the proper reaction to it. Like again, not the same thing IT OT, but if you were able to establish what's normal and what's abnormal, you're able to do something about it. And then you're able to consolidate that, whatever is theoretical and what's really happening on the environment, you're able to make that and make that your environment. So how do you align the security cam?
Yeah, in the case, what the right thing to do is to, as a cybersecurity team, is to talk with all operational teams in terms of availability and business continuity. Because if you come to them with information about DDoS attack, denial of service, and brute force attack, they don't understand this language. You should tell them that adding this layer of security or doing this measure on security will help you to insist that the operational technology will be available for a long time. They understand this language. And of course, when you come with a risk, you have to do some prioritization. To prioritize, you have to say, at the short term, we know that this system cannot fix, and to avoid such kind of to avoid some risk, we can set in place like a VPN access with multi-factor authentication, and this will not touch your part of the operational technology. It will be in the entering of a network, and this will help you to this will secure you without touching to your devices. This is very important to them, because if you come with some security measures that you want to put in place, and the tool is near the OT devices or is in the area of the OT devices, they will tell you no, 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 because they don't want a disruption on their part. And for sure, when you add some layer of security, the right thing is also to periodically give details, information about the OT guys, to have them involved on your strategy. You should come to them and say, guys, was put in place this cybersecurity measure. This help us to detect this kind of attack, which goal was to create some disruption on your OT part. But because we detect it, the attack never success, and at the end of the day you is protected and you don't lose maybe 2 or 3 days of distribution. This kind of argument help them to understand that cybersecurity is very important, and they have to be involved on that, because if we don't do that, unfortunately one day they will get hacked, and if they get hacked, the impact will be very high for them.
Yeah, some of the attacks, like you mentioned before, it can be life-threatening, or if you're doing cement or anything else, you can have a vat of something completely finished, and it can take weeks before you're able to restart to rebuild something, and can cost you millions.
Yeah. In terms of securing of the OT network, to be pragmatic, segmentation will be one of the first things that we have to think about because these devices are on your network for 10 years, 20 years or more. They come with a lot of vulnerability. You cannot patch all of them, but you have to keep your security secure, your network secure, even if you know that you have a lot of vulnerability. For that, network segmentation is the right thing to do. You have to create one zone for OT devices, another one for IT, and so that every time you can have mixed zone, but the right thing here is to ask yourself what are the risks that we have, how I can separate this network logically or physically, but most of the time, I would say logically, and so that they can communicate. But if there is an attack, I can detect it, enforce security, and respond very efficiently when needed. And for sure, you have also when you have to ask for appliance security measure for the OT part, you have to think about maintenance windows. When I can do that, it is an emergency, but for many reasons, I cannot decide to stop the Windows XP machine which will run the production. I have to wait for 1 week, 2 weeks. What I can put in place in this 2 weeks to ensure that the network is secure even if the vulnerability is not fixed. This is the way that you have to think. Applying, coming with a measure, uh, using a risk-based approach instead of saying that this is a critical vulnerability, you have 24 hours to fix it, and you have to do that. This don't work with the OT part. And for all the remote access, ensure that you don't have a remote access without a VPN access. Sorry, without a MFA in place. MFA is a must. You have also to just decide that when you have a MFA in place for VPN access, keeping the VPN access for a long period of time is a bad idea. You have to apply a rule where every 24 hours the VPN access will disconnect. And if someone want to connect again, you have to enter username password again to connect. And for sure, avoid using some tools that can help you to do some remote access, like TeamViewer, AnyDesk, and other tools that are considered to be not secure tool to do remote access to equipment like operational technologies.
And I would add on the remote access a jump box.
Yeah.
The VPN to jump box, and jump box, then you access what you're allowed to access. And that jump box can be used by the IT guys also, or anybody that needs to access the system. This way, there's no direct access to the machine.
Yeah. For people who don't know what is a jump point is a system, it is like a gateway on your network. Everybody will connect primarily on the jump point using MFA. When they connect to this box, which is a gateway, after that, they will be allowed to connect again to the server on the machine.
So there's no direct connection to the
Yeah.
machines. It's isolated.
Yeah, when there is an attack, people have to ensure that the operational technology part of the network is well secure. The tools that you use on the market to protect IT network are not the same than the OT part because the OT network come with a specific protocol, Modbus, CAN bus, and other protocol. Ensures that the tools that you use are able to understand these OT protocols. They can analyze them, take action on that, and come with some alerts that are related to real attacks. You should avoid using IT tools to protect OT part because they are not efficient enough to protect this part of the network. And when we see the increase of the attack on the market, the attack are becoming more and more complex, a lot of new attack, we advise you to focus on a behavior-based tools to protect your OT part. If you are using a tools which come with a signature. This will not work because a signature-based tool cannot have all the signatures that are needed to detect all the attacks that you can see on the market. Go choose AI-based tool that come with a module which can learn the normal behavior of your network, of your device, and after that, the tool will be able to detect the deviation, what are sign of attack, and you will be alert. And after that, you can analyze the alert and take the right action to isolate the attack. And for sure, because the OT part of the network is very sensitive, we advise you to don't use active monitoring tool. You can be somewhere, see the traffic on the mirroring port, and no interaction of the devices. You take a copy of the traffic, you do the analysis passively, and when there is an attack, you create a ticket, you ask for taking action on that, but never use an active tool to monitor the OT path because with active tool, when the attack is detected, there will be a request to block it, block the device. And for sure, for the other OT path, you don't want a system to be blocked because you never know the impact can be very high.
So, yeah, and the OT protocols are not like TCP. TCP, you lost a packet, there's a repeat. On the OT side, nope. You lost that one, that's not good.
Okay. And in terms of cybersecurity monitoring for a mixed environment, IT and OT, the big challenge is with the OT part. Because on the market today, there are cybersecurity specialists, but most of them can handle attack against IT part, but there is a few people having experience in OT security are very hard to be found on the market. And the monitoring team, like the SOC or the MDA team, have to be trained to understand what is the constraints of the OT network, to understand that when there is an attack, you cannot just ask to disconnect the OT device or to block it. You have to come with a risk-based approach, saying like, we know that the system is under attack. We know that it is critical. We cannot stop it. Can we add some firewall rules to protect it? Can we increase the level of vigilance when we monitor this network instead of asking to block such a given device? This is the ways that we have to think to ensure that IT and OT network are protected enough. And for sure, when there is an incident like an intrusion, can be a ransomware attack, you have to ensure that you take into account the constraint of the OT part. Sometimes we are seeing some OT network which is under attack, but we cannot stop it. We will keep the network running, even if we know that the network is compromised, keep it running and coming with compensatory measure to decrease the impact, the global impact, and after that, ensure that you fix the problem. But you cannot just decide to stop the network. Yeah, for incident response on OT network, containment is very hard because when a company faces a cyber attack, first thing to do is containment. In containment, you have to identify all the impacted device and to isolate them to avoid attack propagation. But for the IT part, you cannot do that. Well, most of the time, if you are seeing that a lot of devices are compromised, you just cut internet or you power off the network. And this is enough for IT. For OT, you cannot do that. And before taking some containment decision like a system which is critical is under attack, you have to ask for the system owner what is, if you is okay to disconnect the system or to take any action on that. And this is sometimes hard to do. This is the reason why most of the time when we create the incident response plan, we will talk with the operational team and say, do you have some devices that if there is an attack, we can disconnect them? Can you give us the list of the device versus the list of the systems that we cannot touch? And if you have this kind of information, this will help you in case of attack to say, okay, this one is not very critical. The operational technology team, Hello has to take action on that. But for this one, even if there is an attack, we'll just let him running and continue to do our containment in the IT part. And after that, we'll come on that later. And for sure, recovery is not the same. For IT part, you have an attack, you just format your system, build them again, upload your system, restore that, and come back to production. It can be fast, but for the OT part, it is very hard because the system sometimes we are seeing sometimes the provider of the technology which is not on the market because the technologies are too legacy. And in such kind of case, how we can do? Can you rebuild the OT device and come back to production again? Or how you have what you can do to ensure that everything will be done in the right way? For that, we'll talk about operational windows. You know that for this week on 2 weeks, maybe there is a maintenance which is plain, and you have to come with your recommendation and ensure that they will apply in this part of the windows. Yeah, for to prepare yourself and avoid some distribution, you have to create your incident response plan. It is very important to have an incident response plan for the IT part and for the OT part. If you can have one plan, it is fine, but there is no problem if you have two separate plans because the way of handling the incident are not the same. And for sure, when you create your incident response plan, you have to do some simulation, what we call tabletop. You come up with a scenario which must be a mixed scenario, IT part and OT part, and you sit with your IT and operational technology team, and you run your tabletop scenario, and you ensure that everybody know what is his role and responsibility, and what decision they have to take, and how they can handle incident targeting these two parts of the network. And after that, we advise you to run this kind of tabletop at least 1 or 2 times per year. This will help your OT and IT guy to work together and to understand how they have to manage the incident when they face a cyber attack. And for sure, here, communication is very important. Communication between the cybersecurity team and the operational guy ensures that every time that we have to set in place some measure to avoid cyber attack, we understand why you are doing that, and they have to know or to understand that this will help them to better secure the network and to avoid some attack which can lead to data distribution or which can lead to some lack of availability of the network.
The word you said, Karim, was together, and that last thing. So all this, it's in the IT, when you talk about security, it has to be a business decision, a business sponsor. When you talk about OT side, definitely a business sponsor. So when you want those systems to work together, again, business decision, business sponsor, then you start building your governance and establish the responsibility. IT, OT must be involved, must be working together to secure this environment because IT doesn't understand OT. OT doesn't understand IT. They need to explain to each other, making sure they understand. Before I was mentioning about the network visibility. Understand what talks to what. What's normal in your incident response plan. When you establish the what's required, the dependency of the different system, it helps build your incident response plan because you know what system depends on what. And all that helps you make risk decision. And the risk decision that you have to do on the governance part, when you talk about OT, it's not necessarily technical. You mentioned it. You can't just unplug the machine on your SCADA or your machine on the OT side like you do in the IT side. Risk decision are completely different. And they need to be understood by everybody that's in the process, in the response. Everybody needs to know that. It needs to be documented. Responsibilities in the incident response, it will be there. But in the governance, it needs to be there. So who's responsible for what? Every project that you start needs to have the security team and duties again work together. Make sure that we're going at the same place with the same target for the business. And the escalation path part of the incident response plan too. So everything is again a team effort in with one objective. Business, the business has to go further, make grow. So in what I've seen at customer site, and Karim, I'm sure that you've seen even worse than I did. But those like I was mentioning before, the IIoT device on the network, clear text, password, having the wrong tools in place. Also, I've seen a lot, but most of the time, what I see is a lack of communication between the IT and the OT side. It's just I said I said blue, he said black, and well, it's blue and it's black, and we're not gonna change colors. And it's a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding of each other. Why I think this? Why I think it's blue, and why does he think it's black? And maybe it's yellow. But if we don't understand, can't make a proper decision. I don't know if you've seen other thing on your side, Kahan.
Yeah, I would say you are right because yeah, communication is the key. People should sit together, talk. The guys from operational technology have to better understand what is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity team and IT guys also to take the time to understand OT guys. Just not saying that they don't want cybersecurity. It is to understand their reality. Why do they don't want to apply security measure as we are asking? And come with a risk-based approach and told them that we are here to help you. If we are not seeing the cybersecurity team as people coming to help them, most of the time this will be a fail.
Yeah,
And collaboration is the key, as you are saying.
yeah, they have to understand cybersecurity is it's to enable them.
Yeah.
So the strong benefit of IT/OT, the collaboration itself, again, the objective is for the business. And initially, when we talked about the Industry 4.0, why was it there? Because we want better process, better revenue, better margin, better optimization, all that. Well, improve operational performance. That's what it brings to. And business-wise, if you know real-time process, how you're making money and where you're losing money, you're able to make better decision for your business. And all this, at the end, it's your company. If you start implementing this the right way, you have advantage on the competition. Because if the competition is not doing it, well, they're not equipped to make better informed decision, to accelerate innovation, to improve their operation costs. They're not equipped to do it. You are. So you're able to beat the competition. That's the at the end, that's the whole point.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Roger and Karim. I was going to make some closing remarks here, but it's hard to do better than you've done, Roger. So we know the security of enterprise security, IT/OT, is obviously it's not a product, it's an ongoing, it's a way of thinking, it's a collaboration model, it's a way to build more resilient businesses, it's a way to create competitive advantage, and we'll be all the better if we can do a little bit more of that. We have 5 minutes left to this webinar. We have a couple of questions here that have come in the Q&A, and so either of you can answer this one. During a vulnerability scan, a company discovered several critical vulnerabilities. in its OT environment. So obviously these are old system, and the operators are hesitant to patch the system. What should be done?
Yeah, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I would say never try to patch, because if you do that, it can lead to a big issue on the company. In such kind of case, you identify the vulnerability, you know them, but you have to focus on network segmentation, how you can isolate these devices from the other device and decrease the attack surface. This is what things that you have to do here.
And he also, you have to keep in mind that patching, um, you might not be able to patch ever. Maybe you'll be able to patch actually when you change the machine in 25 years, because you just can't touch it. It's not supported.
Hmm.
Thank you. Another one that we have here, and I think there's the reality of the business to take in consideration. But the question is it a good idea to allow remote internet access to our OT equipment?
Really, do you want to try to go?
No, don't. Never do. Never. We mentioned it during the webinar, but remote access, direct, never. VPN with MFA, jump box authentication again with MFA to your system.
Yes.
Never direct access. Never. And if it's the device needs to access the cloud itself, it needs to be very well firewalled.
And what I also see, this company allowing some remote access directly to the OT devices. And when we talk to them, we say, this is a bad thing. You have to fix that. And after that, they are thinking that maybe if they talk to with a provider, this one will say, no, 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 this is the only one way that we use to access to a network. But in a real life, when we sit with them and we tell them, guys, the ways that we access to the network is a bad idea. This put the company network at risk. This is the way that we recommend you to access to the network. Just use a VPN access. We'll create you a VPN access with MFA, and you will use it to connect to the network. Most of the time, they say, okay, this is fine. Don't hesitate to tell to the companies that the ways that they use to access to the network is not secure enough, and propose them to give them VPN access. They will be really happy to use this way to connect to your network.
Yeah. And often this jump box, by the way, if you do put
Yes.
jump box, it will be in the IDMZ. So you add a DMZ that's for the industrial network, and it separates the IT from the OT. And from there, the jump box goes in your OT side. So that's isolated your environment. And by the way, never let your guys for maintenance come in with their laptop in your network and connect on the network. Never. You don't know where they've been before.
Yeah.
Excellent. But this sounds like this is a great way to end this webinar. Thank you very much, Karim and Roger. Thank you for to everyone for attending this webinar. We hope that it would be it's been useful. And again, a recorded version will be sent to you in the coming days. Thanks again, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.